Okay, game 3. It is one game apiece. This is the decider. I'm going to try my very best to do a better job of casting in this game. Since it's a decider and all, it's been a good matchup so far. I thought I've just paused it here so that before we get stuck in, I can give you a little rundown of what we've seen from these two players. This is Burgerslayer in the bottom left, and Confusegamer in the top right. Confusegamer going back to Zerg. Let's play this as I talk about what we've seen so far. Confusegamer has shown us that he is a very capable macro player, particularly as Zerg has won several games by just getting a very strong economy and then just churning out vast numbers of units, vast numbers of links. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that sort of play from him again in this game. In the last game he played Terran, and we did see a couple of micro errors in terms of the way he engaged his units, and that didn't go very well for him at all. So far what we've seen from him, very much a macro player. Likes to open with the spawning pool, likes to get his expand down early-ish, likes to get a lot of lings out on the map and put pressure on his opponent. Burgerslayer, in the meantime, has a tendency to drop a forge relatively early, but out of all the players that we've seen, mixes it up, I would say, more than anybody else in the tournament that I have casted. Now, is this worker going for a scout, or is he up to some sort of no good? Burgerslayer does not shy away from sneaky builds, doesn't shy away from cannon rushes. We've seen a proxied Stargate. He is unpredictable and knows what he's about, does a pretty good job of macroing at the same time, so he will have the money to put into whatever it is he plans. Also a player that is quite keen on ninja expos, quite keen on dropping expands in places that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So looks like that's what this worker is there for. Looks like that worker is going to be just dropping perhaps a nexus once he has got enough money, etc., to do that. But oh no, it isn't. Is this going to be another proxy Stargate? This is very much the position you'd expect to see it. Normally, Protoss players, if they're going to proxy something in this type of position, you'd expect it to be a Stargate. The other things that Protoss players can proxy, if you're going to do a Dark Templar rush, it's common enough to build your Dark Shrine and even your Twilight Council somewhere else on the map, so that an Overlord that comes into your base doesn't see those structures and therefore can't tell what sort of tactic you are going for. But in the meantime, this pylon just chilling, man, just chilling. There's the Stargate. Okay. So things like the fact that he is building this forge, and the fact that he just has the one gas down. This Stargate isn't as fast as it absolutely could be, but the fact that it is proxied on the other side of the map means that it looks very unlikely that Confusegamer is going to see it, and he potentially could lose. Oh, hello. Potentially could lose a large number of workers to this Oracle. Now, the fact that he's playing Zerg. Hello? What? There's some confusion there. Maybe he's confused that he's up against the Zerg. I don't know. The fact that the Queen is there will mean that this Oracle cannot get the sort of runaway kills that we saw in the last game. The Queen versus Oracle, the Oracle will win that fight if all it does is attack the Queen, but it will cost it most of its energy. So yeah, it can kill the Queen, but it will then not have energy to kill workers. What? Good. Yeah, it will then not have energy to kill any workers. So this Overlord needs to turn around pretty fast. He isn't gonna, and he is gonna get killed, and that has actually supply blocked Confusegamer here. Let's see how this Oracle does. Really, the technique should be to focus on the workers and ignore the Queen. Now, Confusegamer needs to react to this, needs to get the Queen working on that, needs to pull the workers as well. Yeah, Don't pull the queen though. The fact that this oracle's already used some energy means that it can no longer win a fight against the queen. So the queen should do this, he says confidently. Yeah, it totally would have. Trust me. I think I've made enough mistakes in these casts for nobody to trust me ever again. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what would have happened. So the Stargate's still working. So a second oracle is going to come out. And that's what we saw previously as well in the last game. Burgerslayer did build more than one oracle. What have we got going on here? We've got just a couple more gateways going up like that. I think it's about time you have an expo though. You do have the money in the bank, Burgerslayer, so let's get that expand on. Otherwise you are going to get left behind by your opponent. Yeah, you have killed manages to pull that out with just a handful of health. 26 health remaining, just a couple of hits from the queen. Would have seen that off. So good play from Burgerslayer to keep that alive. Is now going to poke in with this other oracle, but Burgerslayer, don't forget your macro. If you want to win this, you do need to be macro on his home. Now he's going to get this queen, but there is a second queen right here. So in a moment I'll just check the and loses the oracle this time. That's a little bit careless. Let's have a look at the units lost. So 10 workers killed, but I cannot help but think that there is still a massive advantage for the Zerg. Look, 46 workers compared to 22, almost double the income. So yeah, I think too much commitment to those oracles on this occasion. Yes, proxy a Stargate, yes, send an oracle in, but you know, get what damage you can get, and then get out of there and maybe poke back a little bit later and kill a few more workers. The commitment in this case, I think, is mostly just Burgerslayer's concentration has been on that oracle, and as a result he is neglected to even saturate his main mineral base here. Look, only 14 workers mining, this worker sitting doing nothing. So you know, definitely a big income disadvantage, and you do not want to be in that position against a Zerg, because this Zerg now with 3 hatcheries up can literally pump out units at a rate that you cannot match. Still a couple of workers here also have been grabbed, I think, at the same time of these lings, and they're not going to be doing much. But it doesn't really matter because Confusegamer is so far ahead economically. So this forge, not up to much, built purely so that cannons can be produced. This is a significant number of stalkers. If we just check the army supply, this definitely has the potential to put a significant amount of hurt. It won't be a game-ending hurt, because Confusegamer actually has enough production to be able to build enough units to see this off. There you see 22 lings in production. 22 lings will do a lot of damage to this. Lings tend to do quite well against stalkers, especially when the stalkers don't have blink, but pretty reasonable micro from Burgerslayer, keeping these clumped so that the lings can't get too big a surround, stepping back and shooting, which is absolutely the correct way to handle ranged units when you're playing against melee units. Yeah, so you know, fancy moves coming out from Burgerslayer. We're seeing micro and everything, man. This is good stuff, isn't it? So yeah, trading pretty efficiently with these stalkers, but this number of lings that's out now, I can't help but feel that he is going to ultimately lose all of these. There are 12 more lings in production. Now, if you've been looking at that production tab, you don't want to get trapped in the why run now, they're trapped. Go in for the kill. If these lings had speed, that would have been a very different story, because the stalkers would have been unable to kite them, unable to step back like that. If the lings had speed, they would have been able to keep up with those stalkers, and that would have been over very quickly indeed. But Confusegamer not on this occasion getting speed out. What I noticed during that whole engagement though was that the production tab was empty for Burgerslayer, so again his attention just not quite where it has been in previous games, and not managing to keep his macro up at the same time as this sort of harass. These lings are going to be trouble. That is a lot of lings, even some mutas in the mix. So long as they don't try and kill these buildings, so long as they run past into the main, this could potentially do some game ending damage. But he needs speed. Is speed being upgraded yet? No, he's forgotten to get the speed upgrade. And that is definitely going to make these lings less effective, but more than enough to see this stuff off. These mutas on their own will merrily kill these stalkers. The mutas are a very effective unit. They are fast, they kind of do splash damage. It's not quite splash, they fire stuff that bounces. It bounces off the first thing it hits onto a second and then again onto a third. I can't quite remember the damage done. 9 on the first, then 6, then 3, something like that. So mutas are very, very effective units at killing workers. Will clean out a mineral line pretty quickly, and the way that sort of splash damage works, it means it kind of scales up exponentially with the number of mutas that you've got. So once you've got a whole sort of flock of them, they're quite effective at taking out relatively high numbers of stalkers. In general, stalkers do trade pretty well against mutas, but if you've got more mutas than there are stalkers, you're probably going to win. Definitely going to win if there's lings underneath it. Now this is an almighty amount of stuff. Look at the army supply, 107 to 27. Burgerslayer, you need to block this. This needs to be closed. You cannot let these lings come in. If they come in, you are doomed. You're in real trouble if these lings get into your base. That's a huge number of lings, and they are going to get in. Okay, finally closing the door. The mothership core needs to overcharge, but to be honest, I don't think there's anything Burgerslayer can do at this stage to survive this. That it's just an overwhelming amount of stuff. And I think that's going to be the GG. So an interesting game. Burgerslayer with the proxied Stargate, not getting anywhere close to the sort of game-ending damage that he achieved previously, and ultimately just committed a little bit too much to it. The proxy Stargate was a good play, but it should have been a throwaway play. It should have been a single pylon, a Stargate, get a little bit of damage done, and then get out, rather than putting all your attention and focus into it, ultimately then allowing your macro to slip and not being able to match the Zero player. These lings, look, still 16 more lings in production. Confusegamer did a really good job of keeping his macro up at 188 supply here, 12 minutes in, not bad at all. Very nice. So surely GG. It is all over. These stalkers are not going to win the game for Burgerslayer, as much as he might like them to. Neither this Oracle, it kills, though it does have. I think Confusegamer just needs to recognise where these buildings are, and it will all be over. So, pretty good stuff. Burgerslayer, definitely a strong player, but Confusegamer coming through and looking like a serious contender. So we've got a few players now that look very, very strong indeed. Nemesis Fire previously looking very, very good. Confusegamer looking very, very good. Who else do we have? Bicuspid Valve looks very, very strong indeed. So this tournament's definitely beginning to shape up, I think. Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually seen that many lings. 194 supply. How much of that is lings? 6 full tabs of lings. Is that just because there isn't room for more than 6? I don't even know. I've never seen that many links. That's insane. Yeah. GG, man. Hopefully tomorrow night I might be able to cast a couple of games for you guys. I will be online tomorrow night playing a bit of StarCraft, I think. If anybody wants a game, do feel free to hit me up. You'll find I'm quite often on Battle.net, logged in, but not necessarily playing, and that's yeah, well, a couple of reasons for that. My computer automatically logs in when I turn it on, so just because I'm on Battle.net doesn't necessarily mean I'm scrafting. And also, if I'm playing Hearthstone on my phone or something, I'll show up. But do feel free to, add me as a friend. Do feel free to hit me up for a game or something. If I'm online, I'm often up for it. Yeah, and I think in one of the previous casts I mentioned co-casting. Anybody wants to hit me up as a friend, we can hook up on a Skype call, we can watch a replay together and just co-cast it for a bit of fun, and we'll get some of those videos hopefully on the channel as well. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Yeah, GG, man.